Hi, good evening. Hi, Lakshmi. Hi, good evening, everyone. There is Meenakshi. Meenakshi, I will send you an invitation. Hang on. Hi, Suprita.
It's like really close up.
Now you're on.
Hi, Akhila.
Hi, Meenakshi. You managed to figure it out?
The daughter, the next gen is manning the iPad. So
Okay. Lovely sari, Meenakshi.
thank you, Akhila.
Where's it from?
This is the only saree I own from Panjavarnam.
Oh, it's from
So I
Panjavarnam.
thought,
Oh, it's
why?
beautiful.
Yes, I thought, what better occasion than today to showcase it?
Lovely. What sari is it, Meenakshi? I'm just curious.
It's basically cotton. I think it's got like a kota weave, kota doria, but it's got this exquisite silver thread embroidery on it. And
Oh, wow.
the way I use the word exquisite describes how I kind of succumb to temptation. I'm usually
Of
not
course.
much of an online shopper, but when I
Right.
saw this one pop up on my Facebook feed, I just couldn't resist.
Right. Okay. Lovely. It's beautiful. Thank you, Meenakshi, firstly, for being a part of Panjavarnam Silks series in the company of the Sari. This is
Thank you for
a
inviting me.
series. This is a series where we invite, we've been having a whole host of women from different walks of life to really share their personal stories, their career stories, but all sort of inextricably linked to the idea of the sari.
Right.
So I do know that you're a huge sari lover yourself. So I thought it would be lovely to talk about the many hats you wear in terms of your professional life and to kind of see how the sari is such an intrinsic part of them all. For those who've just joined, I'm going to take a moment to introduce you, Meenakshi. So
Sure.
please bear with me. Yeah. Meenakshi Ramesh, who's based in Chennai, is passionate about working on social and civic causes and strongly believes that individual initiatives matter as much as collective effort. She is presently the executive director and CEO of United Way Chennai, an organization that carries out holistic and sustainable interventions across sectors like education, health, environment, livelihood, and disability. She's also a founding trustee of Citizen Matters, an online magazine for increasing citizen engagement in solving urban civic issues with chapters in Bengaluru, Chennai, and Bombay. She spent over 7 years in Pratham, India's largest NGO in education. She also enjoys volunteering. I know that for local cleanliness drives and other civic initiatives. She's earlier worked with CRISIL and holds an MBA from the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. She enjoys singing, Indian classical, Bollywood, all of that, reading, fiction, and has been an avid quizzer for as long as she can remember. Thank you so much, Meenakshi. That's really a very, very impressive resume. Can you hear
Yeah.
me, Meenakshi?
Yeah, just 1 second. I think we're kind of cutting in and out a little bit.
I'll just switch the noise.
Yeah, because right now you're completely blurred.
Is that okay now?
Is it better now, Akhila? Can you hear me?
It's better. Yes, it's better, Meenakshi. Yeah. But
Yeah.
your face is still a bit blurred. Maybe you want to ask your daughter to change the setting from maybe Wi-Fi to cellular data or something.
You want to switch it on my
I don't know why this happens every time.
It's probably a thing with Instagram. We'll see if it's not good. Then I'll switch to my hotspot.
Okay. Is it
Okay.
still blurred?
It's a little blurred, but I think it may get better as we go along. This is better.
Okay.
This is better. This
Okay.
is
All
better.
right.
Yeah,
Okay. Thanks.
we can leave it this way. All right, super. So, Meenakshi, firstly, I'm going to start off by asking you, how has lockdown life been treating you? And what are some of the, personally, what have been your key takeaways from it?
So first things first, I just jumped at the opportunity to get dressed up in lockdown,
Yay.
as you can see, with a little bit of jewelry coming out. Yeah, so lockdown has been, I think, difficult in the sense that I am a very handshake, hug kind of person. If I had a chance to meet somebody versus a phone call, I would always take the opportunity to meet. So it has been hard, the lack of social interaction with friends, etc. But at the same time, I think it has definitely given us, as a family, just the unit, close family, it has given us some fantastic family time. We've revived so many of the things we used to do before, playing games together, etc. My children both happened to be here when the lockdown was announced in India and the emergency in the US. So I had the kids home for a really long time, like 10 weeks, and that was absolutely fabulous, given that they're both grown up now. At work, though, I mean, I also started my new job in lockdown. So that was like a bit of a surreal feeling. I took over from my predecessor in lockdown. She tried her best to make a list of things to hand over, and I tried to meet my team on Zoom as much as possible. Now, slowly, we've started to go out a little bit because there is a lot of work in our line that needs to be done. There are donors that want to give people relief supplies, PPE, ration kits, etc. So when my team is out there, I think it's only right that I should be out there. And then when you see how badly people have been affected, there are families that don't have absolutely any savings left. They don't know where the next meal is going to come from. Children are dropping out of school like flies. I only feel grateful for what we have, but at the same time, I'm terrified at what we are staring at, what kind of economic uncertainty, what kind of bleak times are coming in terms of when the lockdown completely lifts. I think we are looking at extraordinary economic hardships for a lot who are less privileged than us.
Right. Meenakshi, is there a way you can wear your AirPods or something? Or you have to be a little louder because some parts I'm losing you because of the distance between the iPad and...
Okay, hold this for a second.
I'll just hold it. Is this better?
No, okay.
Sorry, because otherwise the audio won't be clear.
No, this is the wrong thing. Okay, I'll just hold it close to you.
Is this better if I just came closer?
Yeah. Yes, this is perfect. This is perfect.
All right. Okay.
Okay. Meenakshi, I want to, you told me in your, when we were sort of describing, you're making the poster, you talked about how you like to, sort of describe yourself as a professional in the social sector. And I want to kind of go back a little bit and talk to you about, I read that you did your, a management program from IIM. When did you sort of really develop an interest, so to speak, in the social sector?
So you can see from my resume, pretty much most of it has now been in the social sector. It has been with non-profit organizations. But Ramesh and I married a batchmate. I married a classmate. Very fortunate that we met each other at business school. But we were a few of those lucky batches that went in when the country was still in license Raj, quote unquote. And when we came out, there were the phenomenal liberalization policies had already taken into effect. So we went in 91, we came out in 93 to a different country, absolutely. We were looking at jobs that were paying 5-6 times what the previous graduating batch had got in terms of job offers on the day of graduation. We were looking at opportunities like never before. There were companies that came in from overseas to recruit from our campus. So I think suddenly there was just this great feeling of freedom and opportunity and ability to achieve a lot more. And we lived in Mumbai then. So again, it has been the hub of all this activity. It was a lovely few years. I worked in the financial services area. And then I had my children. I had my first child, and my father was unwell, so he was with me. By the time my father passed about 20 years ago, I had shortly after my second child was born. And then I wondered, what is it I want to do going back? Because I did have some time on my hands. I did want to give back in some ways because I felt like, both of us being similar qualifications, one had the full-time job, could I do something different? And then there was a chance meeting literally in the middle of the road with the founder of Pratham. It's one of India's largest education NGOs.
I know.
But more than that, I just credit Madhav with having brought scale to the country's notice about how if you supplement government efforts, if you get citizens to come together with government, you can achieve impact at an extraordinary level. And I just had this wonderful opportunity to begin by volunteering at Pratham. And then slowly I kind of segued into a role, like a CFO kind of role as my daughter grew into kindergarten and in school. I found that I could spend more time. And it wasn't that I was giving back. It was that I was receiving so much. The kind of people that come to work in organizations like that, the kind of drive and commitment and passion they bring to wanting to change things around them, it's just unbelievable. I have seen 20-year-olds go into Dharavi in the middle of the night with a little...
I've lost your audio. I've lost your audio.
Again? Now? Should we go up, Shivani? Is it Portuguese better?
Yeah, maybe we should go to the hall.
Now, is it better?
Can somebody else hear? Can you hear her, Sarita? Meenakshi, say something.
Can you hear me now? Is it any better?
Okay.
Hear her? Oh my God. Hang on. I'll bring it back again. Okay, thank you. I'm just going to bring her back. I probably had a... Meenakshi, where have you disappeared? Sorry, guys.
Is that okay?
Hi.
Is it better? We just moved to a different part of the house.
I can't hear you for some reason. Is everybody else able to hear her?
I moved to a different part, I hope with better network. No?
I don't know. Others said they couldn't hear. Everyone else is saying they can hear you.
I can hear you now.
Okay, all right. I hope
Yeah.
we can stay with this network. Huh?
Sorry, guys. I don't know. I've been having some trouble as well today, so it's probably got to do with my connection as well. Okay. Sorry, Meenakshi, you were saying you're talking about...
No problem. I just moved to a different spot. Hopefully this is better.
Continue.
So where was I? I was telling you about how it's actually about receiving. It's about meeting the most incredible people, 20-year-olds who set out with, stars in their eyes and a little bottle of pepper spray in their purses to say, I'm going to go change the world. I'm going to change the fortunes and the future of young children all over the country. So it has helped me. And I just got so much energy out of doing that kind of work that I decided, since one of us was fortunate to be in a full-time job that paid us more than enough, much more than we had,
No, just continue.
much more than we had ever bargained for, much more than I feel we ever deserved. So one of us should be trying to devote some time to a different kind of cause. That's really how I thought about it. And that's how I've just stayed with non-profit organizations over the last 17, 18 years now.
Yeah, Meenakshi, I'm curious about, when you say you work for a not-profit organization, this is just a question that's always sort of, I have toyed with, how different is it like to work for a profit organization from a professional's perspective? What is changing? Like whether I work for a profit making company or for a not-for-profit, I want to know, just from like personally, what are the shifts that one is making in terms of, you're still working hard, you're still giving quality, you're pretty much still doing the same thing. So I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on that.
Actually, my stint with non-profits has been much longer than it was in the quote-unquote corporate world, and my interaction has now been mostly in terms of organizations that want to come forward to give towards CSR or donations or whatever. So it is easy to say that there is more rigor or there is more, I don't know, discipline in the corporate world. But I have found personally that there is a lot more empathy among non-profits, a lot more empathy, a lot more people are willing to, and you'll find an enormous number of women leaders come up in the non-profit sector. People around you are much more willing to work around your constraints. Like if I had to go back home to a school, to pick up the child at 3, people would be more than ready to accommodate my meeting at 2 o'clock. There is also a lot of room for the soft skills that people say women bring to corporates. There is a lot of room for leadership. There is a lot of room for innovation. And I think in the last 10 years, there has been a lot of change in the way non-profits are run. There are many people now that want to bridge this gap in terms of wanting to work for something different, wanting to be in a cause that brings about large-scale change, and also not necessarily having to accept very low, below poverty level salaries, if I may just be very shade about it.
Yeah.
There is a lot of room for professional talent, absolutely.
Right. So, but then but still there is there's a sort of a different heart that one needs to kind of say that I'm going to work in a not-for-profit, right? It definitely like, you go to a party and you meet somebody and they say that, I work for a regular corporate job, and then you meet somebody who tells you that they work for a social sector they're a social sector professional. You instantly you're like, okay, like tell me more about it, right? So what is the kind of heart that one needs to actually be invested to work in the social sector?
So I think sometimes it's difficult. You don't have the, what shall I say, it's not really a cushy job at all times. It's not, most often we've not, at least in all the years that I was at Pratham and subsequently, now I'm CEO, so I have an air-conditioned office. But for many years, we didn't have air-conditioned offices. You don't have the kind of, support that you might, just the office support that you might expect from an established corporate. And even in terms of benefits, maybe they may not be as structured as if you were working in an established company. But at the same time, I think the joy, the rewards are very much there. The rewards are disproportionate to the amount of work you do. But when you say hard, I don't think really that it's about, not everybody needs to go and see the gory reality. Not everybody needs to go into slums or into areas where, difficult stuff is happening. You just need a little bit of empathy for the fact that some of us, let's say, who are at the top of the pyramid, are so much more fortunate economically, in terms of the opportunities we got, in terms of the education we got, in terms of even just being, my husband keeps calling it the ovarian lottery. That I was born into a family that was very proud that they had 3 girls, and didn't ever think about the fact that they had 3 boys. And to a father who never shied away from giving me every possible opportunity that he could. So I just think it needs a little bit of empathy to realize that there is a vast majority out there that didn't get probably even one of these 10 or 20 things going in their favor. So can we hang in there and do our little bit to make their lives a little bit better? It just needs empathy. And from that empathy and compassion comes everything else.
Yeah, that's so beautifully said, Meenakshi. I can't agree with you more. And I also like the fact that you talked about how, in some ways, Ramesh was the sort of, he had a corporate job that kept him going, and it was important for their other partner to kind of, do something in a different space and sort of, use these qualities. Thank you so much for sharing that. Right now, Meenakshi, you're the CEO of United Way Chennai. Wow.
Yes.
What is it like to wear the CEO's hat? Like, how has life changed? And obviously, like, with great power comes great responsibility. So what's life been like on that front?
Oh, you just made me feel like Spider-Man. So, but yeah, well, I don't have superpowers. Well, not yet. But it's a strange. It was a strange feeling to start with because I went back into a very structured executive role after a long time, and like I told you, I didn't have a formal handover. I didn't meet the entire team. I
Yeah.
didn't. My predecessor didn't even get to finish. A lot of people who log in here will know Archana Raghuram. She didn't even get to finish some of the appraisals before the year-end appraisals before the lockdown was announced. But she
Right.
tried to do a great job. She put everything together as much as possible to hand over. But I have to say the best thing that helped me ease into the job is that she put a great team in place. And this is what I have to say about what it means to be a CEO. I am really firing from the shoulders of a fantastic team. So it doesn't seem so difficult. I really have a fabulous team that helps me ideate. I have a great team that helps me execute. So for me right now, the challenge is to push them, to push their boundaries, to push in terms of who can we bring more into the giving space, what kind of ideas can we bring into this space, because there is a certain amount of fatigue that has set in.
Of
People
course.
have made donations, people have given what they could to help migrants, people have given for health workers, for PPE, but the need is still there. We are still coming up with requirements from the, let's say, the Kurawa community or the tribals from Javadu Hills. Ours is such a large and diverse country that there are still so many that haven't received anything, or maybe received something that lasted them a week, and we are now into month 5 of the lockdown. So we're going to have to constantly push our boundaries, push people's thinking into new ways of giving, new ways of engaging, and also enlarge the whole pie, so to speak. Whereas if 100 people were giving before, we would like them to give less if they want to, but make the 100 into 100,000. So that then the total still comes out to be larger.
Yeah.
So we need to have more people thinking about giving back, even if it means they give back a very small amount.
Right.
That is what it means to be a CEO right now. I think it's more the responsibility of pushing the team into new territory.
Right. Lovely. And it's great that you have a nice team. So that's probably half the battle won, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
um, Meenakshi, can you tell me exactly what United Way Chennai's focus is? If you were to like define it in.
Sure. So we are part of the International United Way Worldwide Network, and
Right.
it's the concept is basically that each area kind of comes together for itself and for its people. So in the US, there are many chapters of United Way. There could be multiple United Ways within a city because they all want to focus on their local area. United Way Worldwide is among the largest receivers of donations and grants for the pandemic. So they distribute this money amongst the United Way chapters in the US, and they also have about 400 chapters outside of the US. We are 7 chapters in India, and Chennai is one of the 7 cities. Our work is mostly focused on Tamil Nadu and Kerala. And we try to do 2 or 3 things, and we try to do them well. One is we try to be in schools, in primary schools and Anganwadi, where we try to improve, physical facilities, improve the rooms, improve the toilets. Many of our Anganwadis actually have asbesto roofs. So we try and replace those with tin or a better quality roofs. And we also do awareness sessions about health and sanitation for the children and for the teachers. And we do a lot of environment work. We do water body conservation, we do rainwater harvesting programs. And now we're trying to get into livelihoods because we feel that a lot of people have lost their livelihood in the pandemic, and we would like, to help people get back on their feet. But there is one thread that runs through all our programs, and that is of inclusiveness. And everywhere that we work, we try to make spaces inclusive. We try to make people more sensitive to the fact that, we must make this world a better place for everyone. So physical inclusiveness, sessions about including more people with different abilities into your lives. That is a thread that runs through all our programs across the world. Inclusion is a very, very important part of what United Way stands for.
No, absolutely. Inclusivity, especially in the context of like education as well, right? Like, I mean, that's such a important. So have you been going out a lot, Meenakshi? Your work seems definitely very hands-on in that sense. So have you been also going out a lot?
I cannot say a lot because, we have Ramesh's parents are with us. I mean, they live with his sister, but we do visit them very often because, they're growing old. And so I think that those of us who have seniors at home have a responsibility to be careful.
Yeah,
so I go to the office and we do enforce a little bit of distancing, and we say that even within the office, people have to be wearing thin layered masks. A couple of times when donors have requested if some of us can be present at a venue where they were making a large donation, or a couple of times I've gone to visit a couple of senior government officials if we had to get permission. Everywhere we're very particular about social distancing, and but the team has mostly been out there. I go more to the office because I want to meet them. I want to get updates from them. I don't want them to feel like, acha, we are out in the field, but CEO is at home. So I go out to meet the team more. I haven't yet been out on the field. Like I haven't been to Tiruvallur, or I haven't been to Madhavaram, or I haven't been to Perumbakam. No, I haven't.
Right. I'm curious, Meenakshi, how do you, as somebody who works in this space and who's, working in both Citizen Matters and United Way Chennai, there is a certain sort of a need to sensitize people on these matters, not just inclusively, but also like be conscious of urban civic issues. How are you kind of, how do you just like, I mean, when I'm saying when you're not working and when you're with friends, how do you try to, in some way, help other people inculcate for themselves the importance to be involved in matters that concern, society and like, urban civic issues? How does one actually make it a sort of practice in a way that it becomes actually a way of life, and how do you do that?
So it has to just be constant reiteration, constant reinforcement. So here in how the whole civic initiative started was that we are in this lovely, lovely neighborhood where at one time the garbage segregation and clearance practices were really bad, and we would step out and say, oh my God, it's supposed to be beautiful, but it's not. So a few of us got together and we actually started to go door to door, talking to all our neighbors, saying, there are some simple steps that we can do. The usual, the 2 bin 1 bag kind of leaflets we would hand out, and we would tell people. And some of us have actually gone with the conservancy workers in the morning to dig into people's garbage. And nothing embarrasses people more than, someone coming to dig into your garbage to say, oh my God, you put a plastic cover between the eggshells and the vegetable peels. But really, I'm so proud to say that so many people in our area are now segregating their waste. They're keeping their, wet waste and food waste inside their homes. They're composting them. And those practices tend to just become a habit, because once you start doing this, you feel like you don't want to go back to plastic consumption. You don't want to go back to throwing your garbage out. And these are very easy to sustain, These are very, you'll realize that your plants look better, your flowers look healthier because you've given them organic manure. And it's kind of addictive is what I've found. And from there, when I met my co-founder from Citizen Matters, her name is Meera, she lives in Bangalore. I just felt like here was something that could be so easily brought to Chennai. The fact that we write about these issues all the time. We never write about mainstream party politics or about entertainment. We write about the stuff that matters to you and me. We write about the fact that we all deserve clean air, we deserve good roads, our children deserve to go to walk across without being worried about traffic. Simple things that matter to our daily lives. And why is it that after so many years of being an independent country, we still don't have some of these basic rights. So we thought that it's not about just sitting back and saying, okay, it'll happen someday. Can we make more people aware that there is might in collective action, which is again composed of individual actions. So we write about individual stories. We write about people's success stories. If somebody did a great job of a pond rejuvenation in Perambur, we'd like to convey that to Mylapore and to Tambaram and to Tiruvallur, so that that person is not reinventing the wheel again.
Correct.
So we share success stories. We tell people, we do a lot of guides. If somebody says, now the RTO is completely online, don't give a bribe. We have articles on our website which tell you how you can apply for a duplicate license online. You may have to wait a little longer, but it will come to you eventually. How
Right.
can you do? How can you apply? How do you file an RTI if you're looking for some information? There was information in the papers about quarantine rules. We have at least 10 different articles telling you about how, what is it that if you're traveling, these are your rules. If you're at home, these are your rules. You know, the how do people do these things is what we try to tell people. And we firmly believe that from this kind of individuals coalescing into asking for what is only their due will come great change in all our cities.
Lovely. Meenakshi, I want to ask you about, do you sometimes think that it's perhaps more important that people who are in a certain way in a position of privilege, so to speak, must actually use that privilege to effect change? Would you agree that that it's imperative that to create a culture of inclusivity, it's more important that people who have privilege on their side to actually be more hands-on and being able to effect that change? And do you feel that that is happening? Do you feel that there is more privileged people are actually coming forward to participate in matters that concern society, in that sense?
See, it actually cuts both ways. You see, but finally, I think it boils down once again to what I said about the empathy and the compassion. This is not something that you can ask of somebody. This is not something that you can say, hey, I know that you have been brought up in this certain fashion, you have to give back. It has to come from within, and that is when it will be lasting. And that commitment, that connection will be much more enduring if it came from within. And it happens to people at different stages in their lives. It happens when people have certain life-changing experiences, or it happens after you meet a particular extraordinary individual. Like I know, I've met somebody in Delhi who was never the same again after meeting Kailash Satyarthi, and how he devoted his life to bringing children out of bonded labor. So sometimes you just need to meet one extraordinary person, and then you feel like, oh my God, there is so much I can do. Let me get started. And then, of course, a lot of change is actually brought about by people who've been in hardships themselves and who feel like there was so much that could have been better. I will work to make it better. Exactly. So I think it has to come from within. It has to really have that connect to make it a lasting. But I do feel that a lot of people are now coming forward. And in that sense, perhaps this pandemic will be seen by history as maybe a little, that may be seen as a little silver lining, in that finally it turned out to be such a great leveler. And everybody was affected equally. So can we all look at ways of making the world itself, the post-pandemic world itself, a little bit more egalitarian, a little bit more pluralistic, a little bit more equal? If that were to happen, I think it would be truly the silver lining in this horrible 2020 that's going on.
Oh my God, yeah, seriously. But I still think that, of course, it's terrible for, for all the lives that are being lost. But it's also a great time for all of us to recalibrate on so many levels, right?
Right. It is. You suddenly realize what is important, you realize that there was a time when I would have said 7 wonders of the world is on the bucket list. I would have said, oh, I want to have this photograph on top of, I don't know, in Yosemite or something. All that's wishing for, oh my God, be happy to ride out the next 3 months with good health, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Meenakshi, you just spoke about how like everybody meets this. It's possible that, people kind of, it comes from within and different people have different stories. But I'm curious about what is your story? Like, is there any one particular moment or are there any particular moments that you'd like to share with us from your journey in the social sector that have really remained with you and have had a lasting impression that every time you perhaps sometimes felt like giving up, these stories come back to you and you're sure that you don't want to ever let go? Are there like stories like that in your life?
There are many actually. There are many in the sense there are these stories when you sort of meet people who have been instrumental in sort of bringing about these change. Like I told you, when I was in Pratham, I was very fortunate to meet some very, very young but determined young women who were so clear about where they wanted to go, what they wanted to do. And I remember coming, I was visiting Chennai at that time, and we have affiliate organizations in Tamil Nadu as well. Now, of course, the program is a little different. And I remember going into one of the classes, one of the evening classes in Uttarameru, which is just outside of Madras. And there were these 10 girls sitting in an evening class. And one of the girls, her mother has, I think, slightly impaired vision. And the mother came up to the terrace where the class was going on. And she brought a piece of paper. It was a letter. And she called out for her daughter. And the girl stood up. And then she said, "Edo kadidas vandirukku, padichu sollen." And in front of so many people, that child read that entire letter out to the mother. And whatever, I don't remember the contents, but the mother was standing there with tears in her eyes, and she said, "Idu padichu mundukku vandaduna enakku vera eduvume vendam." You know, so for parents, they live through their children. Some parents in that section of society, for them, it's aspirational that their children should do better than them. They should get better education. So there were so many moments like that in my time in Pratham that made me feel really good about being part of that organization. And then I remember that when I came to Chennai, that was the year that Danutsav first started. And I had this fabulous opportunity to meet so many people. I met police officers, I met actor Surya, I met business leaders, because we were trying to tell everybody, please celebrate Danutsav, please endorse the concept of a joy of giving week, a week in which you think about somebody less fortunate than you. And I remember somebody who was doing a TV program, I think it was Sam Daniel of NDTV, and he summed up the program by saying, "I want to tell you that Danutsav, or Joy of Giving Week, is not about how deep is your pocket, it's about how large is your heart." And to me, that was like such a succinct way of saying what we really need to do. We just need to open our hearts out and take in everybody. And then, you really feel like my work is worthwhile. And on a lighter note, of course, my father-in-law once told me, "You've been the road full of vida, எல்லாத்தையும் குப்பை பத்தியே பேசிட்டு போற, ஒரு நாளைக்கு உனக்கு இந்த வேலைக்கு பத்மஸ்ரீயே கொடுத்துற போற." So yeah, so there are fun moments as well. Yeah.
Lovely. So we'll sort of shift tracks a little bit, and we'll sort of now talk about the saree.
The saree,
right?
yes.
Yes, Meenakshi. So tell me really, did you grow up in Chennai or did you grow up in Bombay?
So my father was with Bank of India earlier. It's a nationalized bank, and so he had a transferable job. And I spent a big chunk of my childhood school years in Mumbai. But eventually my father shifted to a Gujarat-based private employer. So my best memories of finishing high school, then finishing college, are from Gujarat. We used to live in Baroda. It has to be among the most cultured cities in this country.
Really?
Such a beautiful city, such lovely people. And it's a beautiful fusion of the Gaikwads, the Maratha kings, and the Gujarati people. So warm, beautiful, beautiful city. I still would say that if people say, "What is your Maika? What is your home?" I will say Baroda. Lovely city. So that's where I spent a lot of my impressionable years. Yes. And since you asked me about the saree, I will tell you that while I was there, I was in the NCC, very active in the NCC. And my father was like, "Do what you want. I mean, you got an opportunity, do it." So I was picked for a youth exchange program, and I was in Rajasthan at that time, in Jaipur, for my 20th birthday. And my father had actually written to the Director General at the NCC and asked for permission to visit and to take me out for the day. And I didn't know he was coming, so it was a surprise. And he came to the camp to pick me up on my 20th birthday, and we went shopping into Jaipur city. And my father bought me this absolutely beautiful copper sulfate bandhani silk saree.
Bandhani,
It's been 30 years, the saree is fraying at its edges, my father's been gone. But it's one of my most prized possessions.
I can imagine.
So that's how my love affair with the saree started. That was the first saree he bought me.
Oh, that was the first saree, is it? Okay.
Yes.
Wow. You weren't wearing saris before that, Meenakshi?
I was. Maybe I might have borrowed a cousin's saree, or I might have worn it to a school farewell or something. But that was my first saree.
Yeah.
My own.
Wow, lovely. Yeah, that's right. Do you still have the saree with you?
Yes, I do. I don't wear it very often because it's very...
Right.
The fabric is very flimsy. I want to preserve it. It has too many emotions attached to it.
I
So
know.
I have it. Yes.
I know it's funny you say this, and I probably have been talking about this to almost every single guest. Everybody has, like, I remember Janaki, I don't know if she's still here, but Janaki talked about how, like, the sari that her mother had gifted her, that's still sort of, and we talked about how, like, every sari really has a story. And then my mother, who's been watching all these conversations on Panjavarnam, has actually written a little piece on,
How lovely.
on how, I mean, her take, of course, interestingly, Meenakshi, is about how we're all, there is a sort of revival of sorts among young people, at least in terms of wearing the sari, showcasing it. And she talked about in this piece that I'm going to share actually on my Instagram soon, which is about how, like, my mother literally wears only the sari. Like, she wears the sari even when she goes to bed. So, and she has a different set of saris that she wears when...
Yes,
whatever.
night sari.
Night sari, exactly. Wow, yeah, lovely. So, after that, Meenakshi, after that first sari that your father beautifully gifted you, what has been your sort of trajectory with the sari? What has been your relationship with the sari?
So, right after that, I went to do my post-graduation. So, I wore that sari for my convocation from IIM Ahmedabad. I graduated in 93.
Right.
And it was that blue and purple sari that I wore for my graduation. I probably had one more sari at that time. But then, of course, there was the trousseau. And sadly, some of the saris are not in very good condition. Some of the zari has all gone away. But right after I got married, I went to the US on work once, and I took a couple of saris with me because I didn't know what would be, what was the kind of meeting I was going to, etc.
And
so
this
one
was
meeting
part of your corporate job, like your CRISIL?
Yeah, this was in my job at CRISIL. This was in
Right.
1995. And I took a Kanjivaram sari. It was like a nice pink and black veldari. I took it with me and I said, okay, let me wear it one day. So I wore it to a meeting. And of course, everybody said, oh, you look beautiful.
Wow,
this was in New York. But I came out and I took a cab, a yellow taxi, to go to my cousin's place. And the cabbie wouldn't take fare from me. He was from Pakistan. And he said, आपको देख के वतन की याद आ गई, आपसे क्या पैसा लेना?
Oh my God, that's such
It
a
was
beautiful
beautiful.
story.
It was just beautiful. I was like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. This is how it ties people together. Clothes and your attire ties people together. The guy said, अभी तो सब लोग बोलते हैं देश दुश्मन है, लेकिन हमारे लिए तो आप दोस्त हो, So I was so touched by his gesture. And then I was coming back to Mumbai by the Air India flight, and it was fortuitously for me, it was a reasonably empty flight. And I got into a conversation with one of the air hostesses. And I'm telling you this because you're asking my sari story, okay? And I asked her.
Please go ahead. It's so fascinating.
I told her, I said, how do the pleats stay like this? I'm not able to put them. And then when you put the pleats, how does the border stay like this on your waist? And so she said, listen, we have a little cubicle back there where we're allowed to rest. If you're awake when my shift gets over, I'll show you. And the Air India air hostess took me into that little cubicle and she actually showed me how they tie. Of course, they make very small pleats and they make very small pleats here as well. But she showed me a couple of lovely tricks. She said, put a little extra pleat at the back before you bring the pallu around, so it helps you to walk, because that's what they need. So instead of putting all the pleats in the front,
The front.
I usually do that, and then I minus one and I take it all the way to the back, so it helps me to walk freely. And then she showed me how to tuck the whole border in, and she said you may or may not use a pin, but for them it was mandatory to use a pin. But I tell you, I got such lovely tips on how to wear a sari, and I decided that I was going to wear this lovely, lovely garment as often as I could. And then I started to collect saris. Not, I cannot say collect really, but I wear as often as I can. And I have this dream of owning at least one sari from every state in India. I am at 22 now. I hope to get to all of them. And I remember I even did a little session in my daughter's school. She was in this lovely, lovely school in Alvarpet in Arepuram called Bambino. And one of her teachers had said, you know, we are doing unity in diversity, and we want the parents to come and talk about different topics. Can you think about any topic? And I could only think of my saris as, you know, unity in diversity. So I said, Pushpa ma'am, I have saris from different parts of the country. I can bring them to show the children. And she was like, oh my God, what a lovely idea. Please bring. So I took about 20 saris to the school, and I showed the children blue cherry, and I showed them fulkari, and I showed them Mysore silk, and my patolas, and my kanjivaram. I had such a blast. I had such a lovely.
Oh wow. Patola, that's a sari that I want to wear. I want to buy. I don't own the patola.
You can buy a 1 lakh patola, but you can also buy a 10,000 patola and wear it much more often.
Oh, okay, lovely.
Yes.
Meenakshi, are you seeing me in utter darkness? Sorry, because the power has failed, and
yes,
there's only just me, the ghost, that you can see.
Just the face.
Yes.
Well, okay, Meenakshi, I know that when I asked you to send a photograph of you, you sent me this this lovely a picture of you in a muddy sar, and that was really so interesting. And I wanted to ask you about, I have, for example, never been really comfortable in it at all, and I find it and I don't even know how to tie it. I'm really comfortable in the sari, but not the muddy sar. What about the muddy sar do you like, and how have you sort of grown in to kind of like it?
So again, see, everything goes back to childhood. You are sending me into senti mode today. Mm-hmm. So, my grandmother lived with us, my paternal grandmother, and I have very, very abiding, striking memories of my mother wearing her the maroon arak,
of course,
kura padave on Kartigai and on March 14th. Okay, she would only. I think my grandmother must have insisted. So I don't know if my mom wanted to do it, but I very, very clearly remember the whole house is filled with lamps, and my mom is there in the middle in her red 9-yard sari.
Oh, jeez.
It just looked beautiful. It's just one of those lovely memories I have.
Memories.
And so when I got married, and I had this friend who tied my sari for me at my wedding. And I spent hours in it, and I didn't feel uncomfortable. So I asked my grandmother to teach me how to wear it. And she said, she gave me a few tricks about the knot and things like that. So I have, over the years, learned to wear it quickly. And I've learned to wear it kind of with a little bit of adjustments here and there. So only not mastered how to go to the glue in it. So that's a challenge. We have to figure that one out. But otherwise, I think if it's worn reasonably, I think there is a little bit of fear now about wearing it with pants inside and with shorts and all. Maybe that kind of inhibits people from walking freely in it. But I think the best is to actually wear a cycling shorts inside, and then you'll not be afraid that it might fall. But otherwise, if tied a little bit loosely here and there, you can actually go through the whole day in it. It's a very comfortable tie of the sari. It ventilates certain parts of the anatomy very well.
I know.
Because it was so hot in those days.
I know.
And it adjusts, if the pallu becomes too long, you can pull it back. If it becomes too short, it's a very flexible tie. I love wearing the mud sari.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen so many, like my grandmothers didn't, but my great grandmothers, my cousin's great grandmother, she literally lived in it, right? And she was super comfortable in it. Just like, she would like literally wash and like,
Avladhan.
dry it herself. Such a long sari. I would even often wonder how she'd even fold it.
Yeah,
But they
correct.
were like so adept
But they
at
were
doing that.
very
Yeah.
comfortable in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you wear the sari often, Meenakshi?
The madisari, you mean?
No. The regular
Oh,
sari.
sari. Okay, we are back to sari now.
We're
Yes,
back to
yes.
sari.
I try. So I've always felt that the sari is such a versatile attire that you can never go wrong with it. So
Yeah.
whenever I don't know a person that I'm going to meet, whenever I feel like, oh my God, is this going to turn out to be a formal meeting, an informal meeting? What will they expect CEO or what will they expect trustee to be wearing? I opt for the sari because I think it conveys it just picks up the mood of the situation. It can be informal, it can be formal. So I wear the sari whenever I don't know what to wear. I safely stick with saris. And now I think also in my new role, I feel like I must lead by example. It's very important to turn out well at work, to show that when you come to work, you mean it, you're there 100%, you paid a little attention to how you dressed up to come to work. It's important that, even if you're doing a Zoom call, it's important to be well turned out, sitting in the right place. So I wear a sari at least 3 times a week.
Right. Right. I mean, do you think of it as a sort of a marker of culture as well? Would you think that, and that therefore it's
To me, it's more my identity as an Indian. I just feel like here is this unique. Actually, I read
right?
that after yesterday we had the exchange of messages. I was looking up something and I realized that the sari actually came from Mesopotamia, but nobody has claimed the sari for themselves like we Indians
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
So I feel like it just uh, gives me that comfort that I'm here, a part of this large humanity that accepts people, that forgives, that loves. I just feel it's my privilege to wear the sari. If I may say.
Yeah, for sure. That's beautiful. Yeah. Hi, Veena Chiti. I have lost electricity. That is why I'm here. Somebody says you're not to be seen. So I'm like,
Oh God.
well, Meenakshi, finally, I'm just going to ask you to, just give a shout out to people who are listening, who will listen tomorrow, will be sharing this. If they want to sort of, be in some way, be contributors to a larger cause in terms of urban civic issues, or like be a citizen who matters, or a citizen who recognizes the society matters, what would you have to say to them, and we can wrap the conversation on that note?
Wonderful. Thank you, Akhila. First of all, thank you to everybody who is watching, who will watch. A lot of my friends who logged in know that I am Vansari Pittu. I'm constantly telling people, I'm encouraging young women to wear the sari. I'm very happy to say that my daughter, my niece, the younger ones also, I've kind of goaded them into wearing saris occasionally.
Right.
So, thank you so much, all of you, for logging in. All of us are ambassadors for the sari. We also need to go out and support the weavers who make these exquisite pieces of material.
Absolutely.
There is so many struggling all over the country. So if you must shop in the pandemic, please go out and buy saris. We can really help the weavers. That's something I want to say to everybody who's a sari lover. And secondly, I don't want to plug for a cause, but I just want to tell everybody that each one of us has the seed of change in us. So seek out that which appeals to you the most. Some people are passionate about garbage, some people are about roads. I go back to the same 3-4 things that I say. Some people
Yeah.
about health, some people about forests, some people
Right.
about urban organic gardening. It could be anything.
Anything.
But what is it that excites you? What is it, that one hobby that you want to pick up that will excite you about sort of, okay, I'm done with my chores for the day. Let me go and spend some time on this. And you investigate that, you look more into in depth, and you will find fellow citizens who believe similarly. There are, of course, problems in so many walks of our lives here, but believe that there are people out there who are like you, who want to find a solution. I mean, without plugging, so to say, I will say that if you would like to drop a message, I'm happy to share with you names and websites of people that are doing amazing work in all these fields. But everybody should think about that little bit beyond ourselves, the altruistic. What is it that we want to do without expecting something in return. And if all of
Yeah.
us were to come in together, I think we're looking at some extraordinary change that is possible.
And I think that's true of everything, right, Meenakshi? It's not
Absolutely.
even true about, I think we all also need to kind of tune our minds to live a life where we're giving without expecting, and not just in social causes. I think we have to learn to live a life like that, right? Like really
Absolutely.
give without expecting. Thank you
But
so much.
I'll just close on one note, Akhila. I heard a wonderful speech a couple of days ago where if we didn't think about it as giving, as more like we thought about it as receiving, you will get back far more than you give. Never lose sight of that. That is very, very, very heartening thing that I heard from her.
No,
And I think that
for sure.
everybody who steps into this field will realize that you will receive in way more multitude than you gave. And I encourage every one of you to step out and receive more.
Fantastic. That's such a beautiful perspective. Thank you so much for this
Thank you,
absolutely
Akhila.
delightful conversation, Meenakshi. And I can't wait for you to host one of your grand parties where we can let our hair down and dance like there's no tomorrow.
That one place, no sarees, please.
Yeah, no.
Thank you so much, Akhila, for
All right.
having me. I just
Thank you
love
so
this
much. Thank you to everyone who logged in. Bye-bye.
Thank you.